Hard work, work. There you go. Hard work, work. Everybody doing it right. Hard work, work. Hard work. That's what they say. Hard work, work, work. Earn my pay. Hard work, work. Hard work. Do it every day. Hard work, work. Get up out of 2:45. Hard work, work. Let me go and earn my pay. Hard work, work. Put my boots on and lace them up. Hard work, work. Another day to work. Hard work, hard work. That's what they say. Hard work, hard work. I earn my pay. Hard work, work. Move on now.
Attention in the talk, motherfuckers. What's going on, everybody? This is the talk. I'm Sleeveless Mike. To my right, we got Evo. Below him is Coop. And below me, we got our guy, the Ginger back. Gentlemen, how's it going? Welcome into the show. I mean, obviously, it's been a little bit. We don't do these as often as we'd like to. But any big news? Anything going on in the world that you guys just want to get off your chest?
I mean, I already talked about it on our podcast yesterday, the Lyman Lounge. I got a new kitty.
Wow.
And I think we're leaning on the name Remy, little 5-month-old tabby. So,
Remy.
yeah, that's obviously what we're going to be here to talk about today, right, guys? It's pussies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Talking about pussy.
Talking about pussies. Remy like LeBeau, the X-Men, or just you like the name?
Remy LaPousse.
Remy LePousse.
We're just going with what feels right now. We've had a list of names of possibilities, and right now that just one kind of feels right so far. So we'll see. Subject to change.
All right.
I kind of am going to take the Kamala strategy. I'm just going to change whatever I want to fit the mood.
Perfect.
Fair
Matt,
enough.
anything going on with you?
Well, I did just take a trip up to Michigan.
Yeah.
We had first week of the playoffs for Malachi. It's going to be a tough matchup. That's going on tomorrow. And hopefully the next time when this airs, it'll be a W for us. But it will be a tough match. And the boys started wrestling. And Sherilyn, she's doing basketball. She actually she hasn't gotten pulled up to varsity, but she's been practicing with varsity. So that's pretty exciting.
Very nice. Ginger, my guy Byron, what's going on with you, brother?
Oh, not a whole lot, really. Actually, I think things are finally calming down for me. The softball for the kid, the travel ball has ended for the season, thank goodness. And now I have probably about, 50 extra hours during the week to do things now.
Very nice. Yeah. All
And
right.
you, Mike, what's up with you?
Hanging out, man. Going to school. I got a new tattoo.
Saw that.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
I don't know. I bet it fits. Yeah. Boom.
Classic, dude. I love it.
And you didn't go small, which I love.
No.
I had looked at doing the same thing with my boys, and we still haven't gotten them to decide on anything yet. So next time they're out here over the Christmas holiday, we'll see if I can get something figured out.
Lizzie will be getting a much smaller piece of paper because that hurt like fucking hell, dude. And that was just line work.
Well, line work is painful, and then you took it to one of the more painful spots. So
yeah, I said I was going to do the ribs. All the kids are getting on the ribs because having children, I don't know if you know this, is painful as fuck. So it's kind of that reminder that having kids is painful, and you know what? Not to lose your dinosaur. So kind of a thing that got started up in Alaska with another buddy of mine and Byron's, Joseph Carrion. So
I went to basic training with him.
did you really?
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And AIT.
Yeah. Good kid.
Joseph Carrion.
It's funny you talk about tattoos. I'm going to get one on the first week of December. We're gonna when we do the consultation, I'm doing a sleeve. So that's gonna be new.
Nice.
Is it gonna have God Emperor Trump on it?
I was gonna say, is it Trump down the arm?
Yeah, Trump riding on a bald eagle.
It's
And the bald eagle has Kamala in its talons like this. So
it's gonna be him going.
Ugh. Yeah, guys, we can pretty much say whatever we want on this episode because nobody's going to watch it and because it's going to get hidden in the algorithm.
Yeah,
Facts, dude.
for sure.
Yeah.
We might as well pop the cherry. We're sitting here. It's November 7th, 2 days after the election. Donald Trump has won the election. He's going to be the 47th president of the United States. And that's kind of what we're here to probably talk about today. We've promised you political based episodes because of the election cycle. And we've generally held off. We edged a little bit. We've, had Matt kind of gush over there about DJT a little bit. We've, dabbled, but we haven't really dove head first into it because it's a touchy subject sometimes for some people. A lot of people feel pretty touched right now in good ways and bad ways throughout the country. But it's worth talking about because I think as veterans, as Americans, as patriots, it's important to have discourse about our elections and our bosses, kind of, for those of us who are in the military. It's one of those only times you get to choose who your boss is by voting when you're in the military. Not always going to get the person you want, but it is going to be who's in charge of you and in charge of your country. So, where do we want to start off with this?
Well, I mean, I think the only way to do this and do it right would be to say who we voted for. So everybody kind of understands what stance we are coming from. Some people obviously know that Matt is a hard right, dirty Trumper. And some people...
His camera's shaking his head. Yeah.
There are people that are a little more moderate. I think I'm probably the most liberal of the group on the show. Maybe Byron, I don't know where you're at for sure.
It depends on what you define as liberal nowadays.
Right.
That's the problem.
That fucking line is sliding all the time.
I think we should go ahead and each one of us tell us who you voted for and why. Not like an hour-long speech, so I'll keep mine short. But
go ahead, Matt. Start us
all
out.
right. Well,
go for it, bud.
So I voted for Donald Trump because I love my country and I want to see it flourish. And honesty, I think that he is the best man for the economy, for having a strong presence internationally. And I know that most people won't agree, but I do think that he can help bring us together. As silly as that may sound, his whole administration, especially with a lot of the people he's talking about on board, and we'll get into all that stuff, I'm sure, later on in the episode. I think that it has a lot of potential to try to hopefully get through a lot of the rhetoric that's been spread. I think the Democratic Party through Trump winning, I'm hoping that they can kind of see where the mistakes were made within their campaign and how they kind of conducted themselves, never Trump this, and kind of their hyper focus on just talking about how bad Trump is and how that didn't actually deter the majority or the popular vote away from him. That's not what we want. That's not what we need. And I'm hoping that we can see this country kind of come back together, or start to come back together at least. And I voted Republican all the way down, which, funny story real quick, I'll tell you. We went to the voting booth, and, I don't know how it is there, but over here, they don't have computers. We just do it on paper, and then they put it through a ballot machine. I know Arizona, I think, they had actual electronic ones, I think, didn't they?
Every election that I voted for here, so past 3 presidential elections, has all been digital. Yeah, on
those
computers.
Dominion machines.
Anyways, it's you put in a physical slip, you mark your answers out, it prints it out for you with what you want.
So I go into the church that I'm going to vote in for, and they got 4 stations where if you want to be secretive, you can go up and hide and fill out your paper. And they got a bunch of tables with chairs. I was like, well, I don't care. I'm going to go sit on these tables. So me and Lacey go sit down, and I look at the top of the ballot and it says, the first block is straight Republican ticket. You fill in that and you don't really have to do anything else. Right. So, and I look over Lacey, I was like, oh, so we could just fill in this bubble and it'll be Donald Trump and every other Republican, right? And I look over and this girl is literally sitting right across from me. I look at her ballot, and she's got, in Alabama, most of all of the judge spots and all that stuff. There's only one person that you can vote for other than the write-in, and it's a Republican. And every single one of her write-ins were wrote in with somebody, and she was voting for Kamala. And she scoffed so hard at me when she heard me say that I was voting for Trump. And it just tickled me on the inside. It made me feel really good. But yeah, that's what I voted for.
Very nice. What's interesting is I've actually been getting some shit at work because one of our close friends, at least for Mike and Coop, I won't throw his name out. I did yesterday on our show if you want to go back to the lounge, but he was vehemently against Trump in this election. Kind of surprising because he's such a 2A advocate. But it kind of like when he spoke his mind on the piece and he was speaking to me directly about it, I didn't like combat him on it or anything like that. I asked questions, but then kind of started to spread around the workplace like, oh, so-and-so was talking shit about Trump and bad pick and everything. And it started spreading through some of our group chat messages. And I said, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. That's the beauty of this country. And I've been getting shit for the past 24 hours of everyone can have their opinion. Everyone can. Yeah, I mean, that's very much
real
so
rich coming from you, Evo. Real rich.
I'm opinionated, but I'm not against other people having an opinion. But
I don't think anyone on this, in this conversation right now thinks otherwise than that. Absolutely. Everyone's got their opinion. Everyone's got their voice. You know what I mean? That's what makes this country so damn great. You know what I mean?
And I think that's the majority in general, which is why when we come to these elections and it's so one side or the other, it makes it such a difficult time, but hopefully one that we can come to, like you kind of said, and unite a little bit more as a country. But Byron, do you want to go next and talk about, or do you want me to go?
I'll go. So I voted for Donald Trump. I definitely generally consider myself to be a Republican, kind of lean to the right, but I'm open to new things, and I definitely believe people are entitled to their opinions. Ultimately, the decision boiled down to what I feel is going to be best for the country, what's going to allow us to succeed. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and it doesn't happen. So over the past 4 years, we've seen what's happened to our economy, and it's not working. So, it's time for a change. Something's got to do different. I mean, when Trump was president 4 years ago, I mean, things were better. So why not? Let's see what else he can do for us.
All righty.
Okay.
And Mike, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Go ahead, man.
All righty. So in general, on my voter registration ID, it says NP, nonpartisan. I do not align with either of the prevailing parties at this point. And I think maybe, like we kind of talked about this pre-show, Mike, you consider yourself a little more liberal. I've considered myself, being from Minnesota, a very liberal part of the country, to have a little bit more open eyes to a lot of things, progressive ideas and stuff like that. We're more open to individual freedoms and stuff like that, which is more of a progressive stance, I think, in some ways, especially when it comes to like gay marriage and LGBTQ stuff. Like, at the end of the day, I have my personal opinions on it, but I just don't give a fuck because I believe in personal individual freedoms. So I feel kind of like one of those outcasts, a little bit abandoned by both parties, because I can pick and choose from both sides of things that I like and dislike. Though it seems like more often than not, the left-leaning ideals are pulling much further away from that kind of centrist sort of viewpoint that I've had. That being said, I could not get on board with almost anything coming out of the Democratic side in this election. And I'm not saying from Kamala or Biden, because I do kind of both think that both of them are buffoons and that they've had some really stellar possible candidates that could have run for president on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders was not bad. Tulsi Gabbard, I thought, would have been amazing. Like some options that would have really intrigued me. RFK, like some really intriguing options that the party knows that they are too close to the center and they are pulling further to the left and haven't gone with. Like Byron said, I kind of have to choose in this situation what's best for the country. And I did vote for Trump for president in this election. I did not vote completely Republican because I'm trying to, we say this on our Lyman Lounge show all the time. I like parity. I like to have difference of opinions, different things happening. I think that it is good to have checks and balances. And while we have a, judicial branch and, presidential and all that shit, the checks and balances isn't the same if it's all one side, which is what we're kind of looking at here. And while I am somewhat excited to see how that works out with the current setup of people that we're going to be having in office, in general, it's not something that I prefer. I prefer to have a good, like if we could have everything split evenly down the middle where they had to work together and just wasn't gridlock all the time, or one side getting their way, I would prefer that. But I did not vote all red. I did not vote all blue. I voted for Trump in this election. But the kind of rhetorical thing that I kind of like to say is it was less about me voting for Trump, more about me not aligning with the ideals of the more extremist left side that seems to be prevailing in much of Washington right now. And my vote was more so for people like J.D. Vance, for Elon Musk, for Tulsi Gabbard, for RFK, for all of those people in the political spectrum, the business, pop culture, whatever, that are aligning with Trump, that he seems to actually be taking a little bit more input from and is going to be possibly instituting as part of his policies in his, group of officials that are going to work with him. That's more what I'm leaning towards, because while I don't necessarily like a lot of the things that he says policy wise, I haven't had a ton of disagreements. And I think that he's that type of businessman that knows he only knows so much and he needs smart people underneath him to guide him. That was one of his biggest failures in his first term, was he had a bunch of people that were status quo of politicians and found out real quick that that wasn't what he wanted with the whole drain the swamp mentality. That's why he had so many people that got fired and why he has so many people that are against him now. But you can see a bunch of Republicans that have said disparaging things about him, a bunch of Democrats that have said disparaging things about him. But at the end of the day, it's not about Democrats or Republicans who have said bad things about him. It's the elites that are going against him vehemently, like the top echelon of that political class from both sides that have gone after him. And that's the kind of scummy people that I think that are doing those backdoor deals in Washington that have really put our country in a bad spot. So that's where I voted. I'm not surprised by him winning. I was surprised by how overwhelming it was, though.
All right.
To be eye-opening for for a lot of people.
I mean, when you think about it, when you think about the way the campaigns are run now in hindsight, it makes total sense. We'll talk about that in a second, though. So for me, and Evo, you kind of brought it. So I consider myself more, liberal than you guys, but I do not consider myself a fucking liberal by any means. I am far from that. I was dead set in going into this election that RFK was my dude. I was voting for RFK, somebody who is a lifelong Democrat who got railroaded by the DNC, much like a Bernie Sanders did when Hillary got nominated in 2016. And he said, fuck it, I'm going to go and do my own thing. I'm going to run independently. Like, that was my guy. Because I'm not a Trump guy. I have never been a big fan of Trump. I like the whole, it's new, it's different, it's a different type of mentality. But you also need to have, I guess, good people in place that can help you. He has that now more so than he ever did, but there's no guarantee that he actually makes those nominations, that they get pushed through. There's a whole long fucking process. Granted, it's got to go through the Senate and the House, so it'll take no time. He appoints anybody he wants. They get it. I've never been a Trump fan, but there was no fucking way I could have voted for Kamala. I am staunchly a person who is like, you have to be smart to do anything that involves managing other people. And she is not a smart human being. She absolutely cannot speak to a crowd of people. I'm not sure she knows how to speak in a small setting to a group of people. She has no own independent thoughts. There was no delineation between what the fuck was going to happen between her and what we were already getting with Biden, who is off his fucking rocker. That's what I should have worn for the show today. My Happy Halloween shirt for 4th of July with Biden on it. So there was no way I could vote for her. She was not a candidate. She was barely a candidate to begin with. And she just got propped up into that position. Tulsi Gabbard fucking torched her. And I love Tulsi Gabbard for that. So I did what I felt was right. I voted third party. Kinda. Because there was a problem with Jill Stein's ballot. It came out the night before. I went and voted at 8:00 in the morning. You will never convince me that those signs were up when I went. When people went in the afternoon, like when my wife went, Byron went, apparently those signs were up. But I was already posting on Twitter that there were fucking problems because they had the wrong name for the running mate, but maybe not the wrong name. It was a clusterfuck. So I voted for Jill Stein. That vote didn't count. I voted third party in the last couple of elections. I have no problem doing it. I know my guy's not going to win, but I don't give a fuck. I'm not voting to win. I don't care about being on the winning team. I care about voicing my opinion in the way that I feel like maybe it could affect some change. Are we there yet? Not even fucking close. We got to get to 3% before there's even a conversation about a third party. But I believe there's a lot of people who are working towards that. The Democratic Party that we once knew is not the Democratic Party anymore. We saw that in this election. The working class people are not Democrats. Like they are not for the working class people. They left those people behind, and then you had a massive group of minorities, especially Hispanics, that go over to the Trump side because that's a hardworking group of people. It just I could not see myself voting for Kamala. Couldn't do it for Trump. So I went Jill Stein. Total, I think I went with the one third party, 9 Republicans and 5 Democrats. And Byron, I did vote no on issue 1 because I'm not trading one set of gerrymanderers for a new set.
Right. I aligned with that also.
Yeah.
And well, Mike, your vote didn't count in more than one way, shape, or form.
I was pissed. Dude, I was legit fucking furious.
And it makes sense. It does kind of call into question if there should be a recount or something like that there in Ohio, I guess. But again, the
Trump won. I mean, that one vote, those 40,000 votes, because they have them tallied.
Yeah.
How many there were? There's no fucking difference there.
I mean, where's Ohio here? You think it would have potentially made a difference if some of those green votes swapped blue?
No.
I mean, we could just give Ohio to Kamala and we still take it. So,
yeah.
I like how you say we, like it's your sports team.
Political fandom is crazy.
Hey, you know what? I talking about that, I clearly am a Trump supporter for sure, but I'm pretty moderate though. I would say, Evo, you talked about, gay marriage, the LGB. I think you stopped at the B, and then,
dude, I can't keep up with that, and that is part of the problem that we can get into. But
Well, and the thing is like I don't care about any of that. Like by all means, and you know, I think the that propaganda did get pushed a lot during the during the campaign season. Was your gay people are going to lose their rights, and abortions are banned, and then this, that, and the third. It's like in reality, Trump is.
I got one thing for that here, real quick.
Go ahead.
Nation is working with other nations to stop criminalizing of homosexuality, and we stand in solidarity with LGBTQ people who live in countries that punish, jail, or execute individuals based upon sexual orientation.
That was Trump in his first term speaking to the United Nations.
Absolutely.
Now, we've seen it with Kamala, that people can obviously kind of switch their tone, change their viewpoints. Trump has absolutely done that. But
not on gay marriage,
him
though.
In 2016. That has not changed in his statements since then. Has he talked about things like trans rights and stuff like that? Sure, specifically when it comes to sports and bathrooms and that whole conversation.
And children.
I think one of the big slogans that kind of gets pushed around a lot right now is people voted for common sense. And I don't know if I necessarily like the term voting for common sense because it sounds demeaning to those who feel otherwise, but it's voting for what most normal, reasonable people believe is correct. Things like the trans bathroom issue. I don't have a problem if you want to be trans. That is your own personal choice. I have a problem when it's done with kids, and I have a problem when we don't take a reasonable solution like adding another gendered sport rather than putting men in women's sports without adding another bathroom. How fucking hard is it to turn one bathroom into a multi-purpose bathroom for whatever you want to claim? I just don't really care. I think that there's reasonable solutions. And instead of doing that, particularly on one side of the aisle, they expect the majority to bend the knee in the face of wokeness. And that is the common sense part of it that everyone is referring to, is that a majority of people are just tired of it. They are fine with people living their lives, but let me live my life too without you imposing everything on me. That's the way that a majority, I think, of Americans feel. And the left has continued to ride that horse for far too long, where people are kind of giving up on, like, I don't really care about the woke mob thing anymore. I don't have to tell you my views, but I can vote with my views. And we saw that in this election where a lot of the fucking country outside of the major metropolitan areas voted for one side that isn't pushing that sort of rhetoric.
I mean, Donald Trump won the fucking popular vote by millions, and he's a Republican. That's asinine. That never fucking happened. I can't remember the last time. Reagan, right? Was it Reagan? The last time a Republican won the fucking popular vote? I agree with what you were saying. 1 second, and then I'll give it back to you, man. That what they were doing, the Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party anymore. I don't know what coverage you guys were watching. I was watching MSNBC. I assume, Matt, you were watching Fox.
Oh, yeah. The only news network.
Yeah, okay.
He was on Truth Social as well.
Yeah.
Right. You know, actually, I'm not on Truth Social, but I need to be.
Bullshit.
Yeah, don't.
I swear to God. Go look me up.
But
no, I'm not getting on that fucking side.
There was a lot of stuff that they were talking about that was like, it makes a lot of sense. I didn't know some of the stats. 85% of the country, and this sounds right when you think about it, is like completely 100% against any athlete who's been through male puberty to be allowed to compete in women's sports. 85% is a lot of fucking people. That's the majority of the country. But it makes fucking sense because it's completely not fair for somebody who's been through male puberty to compete in women's sports. But they clung on to that kind of thing. And they didn't pay attention to any of the trends because you're right. People are fucking tired of dealing with nonsense. I don't give a fuck. I want to be left alone. I want to leave you alone. do whatever the fuck you want as long as it doesn't affect me.
I've got a bunch of the stats pulled up here from the AP, which is generally regarded as one of the more non-partisan news sources that they generally just put out data and things like that. We're looking at the election race from 2020 to 2024 and the differences in different demographics and how they voted. White voters for Trump actually went down by 3%, 58 to 55%. For Trump, black voters stayed, though black males 45 and under actually went up. So
went up to like 25% or something like that.
At one point it was up to 25%. Yes. I believe it's 3 out of 10 below 45 years old male black voters voted for Trump in this one, which is unheard of for a Republican candidate. Black voters went down for Harris. Like,
yeah, but it went up. Middle class white females went up for Kamala.
Yeah, that's because people are afraid to look like they might be racist.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the big one here, I think, especially with all the talk of securing the border. Hispanic and Latinos went up 13% from 32% to 45% voting for Trump, and Kamala lost 12%.
Working class people.
And those who are here legally, who are proud of their citizenship and don't like to see other people skirting the system, I believe, is one of the things that kind of gets thrown around a lot, is that the Latino community. Look, if you ask a true
I was going to say,
Latino
can we just be fucking honest? If you go back down to Arizona and you ask people that live there, which is I think what you're getting at, how they feel about illegals when they were there legally, it's not good remarks.
Nope.
No. Look, one of the ways that the Democratic Party lost people was, especially in the Latin community, was by pushing that woke ideology. If you go to a true Latino person, your average true Latino person, when you call them Latinx, they are offended by that. They're Latino or Latina. But that left side of the aisle continues to push Latinx. And it's not what those people want. They feel like they are being hijacked and used just like the African-American vote has been for so long. If you vote for the Republicans, they're taking away this, they're bringing slavery back, all this sort of rhetorical stuff. One of the big problems with the Democratic Party right now is that they think that the average American is going to prioritize social issues over other things like the economy,
food,
the border,
motherfuckers
safety,
need the
security,
feed their family,
your basic needs for quality of life to live. They think that they're going to overlook that and instead talk about things that we should be privileged to talk about, things that we are privileged to talk about in this country, but that don't matter when it comes down to brass tacks. Those are things that absolutely we should tackle as a country, but they shouldn't be prioritized over the more important things, right? The Democrats didn't give a more independent voter like me a choice in this election. Trump did give me a choice. Yeah. He gave me a choice of a unity party that he's putting together with moderate Republicans on his staff, Democrats like RFK, independents. Like, he actually gave me a choice. And when it came down to it, those are people who have actually taken action to the stuff that they say that they're going to do, rather than give out false hope and promises and things like that, which has been a lot of what the Democratic Party has done recently. The Democrats have become the elitist class in this country. They look down on everyone else. They have demonized over half the country last election, and obviously they demonized even more this election. They're using stereotypes like they're garbage, they're hateful, they're Nazis, they're fascists, they're unintelligent, or they didn't go to college, so they don't have a spot in this conversation. And that's demeaning. Even if it's true for some of those people, it's demeaning on a lot of those things. Right. And how are you going to vote for someone that is bad talking you like that, acting like they're on some moral superior high ground when they're politicians, they're immoral no matter what? Like, at the end of the day, Republicans are immoral too in many ways, but they're actually saying this is our agenda and they're going for it. And it's on matters that people care about. and they're not going to get it right every time. That's for fucking sure. But at least they're fucking following through with some of their actions. Democrats need to prey on people's emotions. They're trying to make you feel like if I vote for the other guy that now I'm aligning with the Nazi party or something like that, which is absolute bullshit. They're trying to say that everyone that's voting red is a racist. That's absolute bullshit. And then they're trying to say that the day that Trump takes over, slavery's coming back and the country's falling apart and you're losing your right to abortion. Well, guess what? Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022. Who was the president? Don't get me wrong. Trump's Supreme Court justices that he put into place were the ones that helped push that. But it's not been a Republican agenda thing to get rid of Roe v. Wade necessarily. It has come from both sides of the aisle. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said Roe v. Wade was not the way that the country should go forward with abortion law. Taking it back to the states has been something that has been pushed for a long time from both sides of the aisle, but they're saying that somehow now your abortion rights are going to be gone because Trump is in office. He said today that the most conservative of anti-abortion laws, they reside in Florida. At 6 weeks, that's the max that you can do. And he said, I don't think that's right. I think it should be longer. He also has said time and time again through his previous term and this one that he thinks that the 3 exceptions should be allowed: rape, incest, or medical, if the mother's life is in danger. And there is no state in the United States that has made it illegal to have an abortion for medical reasons, for rape, or for incest at any point in time in before the baby is born.
I don't know if that's accurate anymore.
I double checked it before I fucking
North
did this.
Dakota?
So
I thought that North Dakota just did.
I'm going to pull it up again because I got it here just in case.
While you pull that up,
The 3 exceptions to abortion laws are not banned anywhere in the United States. These exceptions are included in abortion laws in most countries, United States, Canada, most European countries. The staunchest places are South Dakota, Florida, and I can't see the rest here. Nebraska, South Dakota, Florida, but abortion bans at certain times remain in place. 57% of Florida voters even supported the amendment to change that, but they needed 60%. So there's still even like a majority of people in Florida that want to change it. Either way, there is no place in America that at some point in time that abortion is illegal. And the 3 exceptions are allowed in all states as of what I was able to find.
And I think the important piece about that is the Democrats.
Not true. South Dakota just got one. The strictest abortion ban in the country. The only exception is to save the life of a woman. The other 2 are not. There are no exceptions for health or pregnancy results from rape or incest.
And is it 100% ban, or is there a certain time frame with it?
Only in the first trimester.
Okay. How long is the first trimester?
I don't fucking know.
3 months.
8 weeks.
3 months.
9 months in a pregnancy. A trimester is third.
I didn't know if they broke up it into like first trimester.
12.
I think it's like 21 weeks, or something like that, right?
Or
12.
Fuck, that's plenty.
Yeah, 12, not 21. I can't.
All right, I'll shut the fuck up.
Math is hard.
I mean, if you get the entire first trimester.
Here, I want to add to that though, which I think that the Democrats really dropped the ball on their campaign with.
Oh no! I'm sorry. It would have allowed for abortion in the first trimester.
And
if it would have passed,
yes.
What's their current law? Because there was no state before this election cycle that had banned abortion completely. Now we got dead time. Matt, go ahead.
I'm going to say what So, like I was trying to say was, either way, though, that was the biggest thing that they pushed. Right, the entire thing was women's reproductive rights, how they label it. Right, and the fact of the matter is that Kamala wouldn't have been able to change anything about that, anyways. Right, so like a vote for Kamala is a vote for women's rights, is the way they put it. It's still at the state level, and they still weren't going to be able to bring that back. You know what I mean? So
Roe v. Wade's not coming back. Potentially, there could be stuff pushed through the Supreme Court.
is
There's things that
regardless if Kamala would have gotten office or not, it was going to stand the way it stands. So them pushing like vote for us for this abortion, and it's completely fucking irrelevant to that level at the executive level. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was
an election of Trump or Kamala wasn't going to change whether or not abortion could or couldn't happen. It was going to be state level. The only way that possibly is changed is if something goes through the Supreme Court that is akin to Roe v. Wade that then starts to put different stipulations on, like the 3 exceptions or something like that. But in general, both parties, until it comes down to a partisan election like this, where you have to combat another person, both parties had generally agreed that it should be left at the state level for them to decide.
Right. And I think that's kind of a disservice to the Democratic voters, because not a disservice, but an insult, really. Like, you're basically counting on the ignorance of your voters to run with this narrative to support their vote. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's a scare tactic, honestly.
Right,
I mean, the Democrats, I've seen it all over my Facebook. People are saying, you know, I fear for my daughter's life. I fear for my children. I fear for women's rights. When honestly, people need to pay more attention to their local government than the federal government, because where have we voted on abortions? Where have we voted on marijuana? Where have we voted on, you know, other major things that happen within our states at the state level? I mean, honestly, being in the military for 12 years and being a grown up for, I don't know, 22 years now, honestly, the president of the United States hasn't had some grand effect on my life. The things that happen within my states, honestly, have been the things that have.
I've got 2 more major things to say about this, and I know I've taken up a lot of the fucking airtime here, but it's because I'm passionate about it. I'll make it 3 things. 1, yeah, I don't think that I should fucking really matter in this, because I do not have biological kids of my own. I am not a woman, and I do think that personally that is more so up to a woman's right to choose what they do with their body and that sort of thing. I know that there's obviously exceptions and things like that. In general, it's one that I like to sit on the sidelines about, because it affects me in general the least. But I don't know that Roe v. Wade should have been overturned to an extent. And I know that this is very anti-conservative in the first place, but I would rather have just given women the opportunity to choose on their own rather than have to have this discussion all over again. I do think that the state level thing is a perfectly fine opportunity, but like the removal of Roe v. Wade, it still seems like it's created more internal strife within the country than was necessary. And third, people are saying Trump is taking away reproductive rights and stuff for women. There's an argument to be said that he's actually trying to increase some reproductive rights for women and for families. He has put forward that he wants to provide IVF for families who need it. He is trying to help families who might need that. My family might need that, and that would be a tremendous burden off of my shoulders. And that's something that's
mortgage, homie.
He's giving rights essentially to people. He's giving an extremely expensive procedure and an ability to people who otherwise weren't able to have families. It is a pro-life stance in one way of thinking about it, but he's also never gone out and said that I think abortions should be illegal. And I think that sort of rhetoric that has been pushed from one side of the party is extremely incorrect and not being genuine whatsoever.
Well, and talking about women's rights real quick, how many women's, I don't know how to word this, how many women have been affected by the left's push for transgender sports, right? Like, as far as talking about women's rights and wanting to fight for women's rights, you know, I only got one daughter, right? But I don't want her to have to compete. And I know we kind of already touched on this a little bit, but competing against males or biological, should I say, males in her sports. I mean, that takes away opportunities for college. That takes away, a whole slew of different things for her. And that just gets ignored. I mean, what about that woman, that right of the women? You know what I mean?
It all has generally felt like a slap in the face of Title IX.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So one last thing here, real quick on the abortion thing. South Dakota, under the law, all abortions have been banned except when necessary to preserve a pregnant woman's life. That is their current law. That is what it will be again now that the measure for codifying into the state was struck down as well. So South Dakota's laws are crazy. Now
They still have the right to move.
Yes, you do. Father, 2 daughters. I'm morally opposed to abortion because it sucks, like terrible. But I believe that you should have the right to choose, especially in those circumstances, those 3 instances where things are not due to your own fault. But listen, I know that if I ever had to, I would do what I needed to do for my daughters. I would move. I would do whatever had to happen. I think it should be legal though. Just because it's not my choice, my moral compass does not point to what is always right or what the law should be. Because I believe that people have the right to choose for themselves. It's a touchy subject, but
and I don't
that's
think that
kind of
there's
where I fall on that.
I don't think there's any one right good answer for it.
No.
And in a lot of those instances, me personally, I feel like when there's not a good answer, you should at least give the people that have a passionate belief about something, give them their grace, their ability to make a choice for themselves. Because at the end of the day, part of freedom is your freedom to make your own individual choices. And that's why I like to stay on the sidelines about the abortion issue as much as possible, because it's not something that affects me right now. But if it was something that were to affect me, I would want to at least have the choice of the option. But I think that there's at least one thing out there with the election of Trump that we can all kind of get behind and agree on. And this next video is going to kind of lead into that a little bit.
Messages for Donald Trump and Donald Trump only. If you're not Donald Trump, keep scrolling. Mr. President of the United States, as soon as you get into that White House and you tell us what's the plan to make America great again, can you please write this down? Can you please make carne asada burritos $5 again? Those motherfuckers are expensive.
Carne asada is fucking expensive, bro.
I can get right behind that. I'm with you.
Fucking bring my burritos back. I want $5 footlongs again at Subway, and I haven't had Subway in fucking months. But it comes to a greater
That's
issue.
a fucking $15 sandwich now.
Yeah.
Right? You can't go to lunch without spending $20, dude. Like it's ridiculous.
It kind of comes to the greater issue though, which is an economic thing. So we got onto abortions real quick off the bat, hot button topic, but the economy, is it going to be better under Trump or not?
Okay, so what do we mean by the economy? Because
The economy.
what people are actually thinking the economy is and what the actual economy is might be 2 different things. Because if you're talking about the price of goods, that's not necessarily the economy. That's inflation. If you're talking about how we're maneuvering in trade and things like that, that's more economic things.
I think it all falls under the same umbrella, brother.
I think it's the national debt. I think it's interest rates. I think it's all of the above, everything.
It is everything to do with.
We're being all
finances.
inclusive of that. I believe that yes, things are going to get better. I don't know how good they're going to stay. I have some worries about the tariff system. I know there are tariffs already in place, but he's talking about like massive amounts of tariffs. Maybe it works, but for how fucking long? I don't know if that's maybe a stopgap.
I got another one for you here.
Qualify the understanding based on what we just saw with those 20 plus Nobel winning economists who said, if you do tariffs the wrong way, you wind up spiking prices here that get passed on to the consumer. Yeah. And that was also additive to inflation. And they criticize the Trump administration and its future plan for being at risk of doing exactly that.
Sure. So I know that's a criticism that's been out there. Here's why I don't buy it. So first of all, these are the same experts that said shipping our entire manufacturing industry to China, to East Asia, to Mexico would lead to greater American prosperity. They were wrong. It was a mistake to do that. We followed their advice. And now, frankly, a lot of Americans can't afford a good life, can't earn a middle class wage because we listened to some of those very same people. But the more immediate reason why I don't buy that argument, Chris, is look, Donald Trump was already president, right? These aren't just plans and proposals. He was already president. And when he was president, you had he did use tariffs, right? And you had the fastest rising take home pay in 40 years in this country. You had inflation at 1.5%. So look, you don't have to agree with everything I say or everything that Donald Trump says. But when you actually look at the policy accomplishments, we had low inflation and rising take home pay. And I think tariffs were a big part of that.
All right. Mind if I hop in real quick, though?
Absolutely.
Just because you're wrong about one thing doesn't mean you're going to be wrong about everything. So JD Vance's argument, it kind of falls and collapses on itself immediately. So he doesn't buy it because at one point that they were wrong, that was him being political and spinning an argument during a campaign cycle. So that doesn't really fucking mean shit to me as far as if it's going to work or not. It's a great concept in theory, but it's just political speak. It sounds good because just because economists were wrong once doesn't mean they're fucking wrong every single time.
I completely agree with that. But also on the flip side of it, history can kind of show us how politicians are going to run things, whether or not their plans have worked in the past, whether or not certain things have worked in the past. Like we know that communism is failed.
Yeah, well, that shit doesn't work. I can that guaranteed to fail.
Right. And so history kind of can show us good things, bad things with plans. And we have a relatively recent history with Donald Trump and his economic plan and his tariffs that he has instituted. And he didn't, I don't think, got to completely go through with all of his tariff plan and his economic plan in his first term. It was more of a longer term solution. Those tariffs were going to increase for China and things like that. It's something that I have hope for because we saw in limited use in those 4 years that it was trending in the right direction. And in general, we are just not equal on the economic playing field. Are you any of you familiar with the Marshall Plan?
We talked about you and I have talked about this briefly the other night, didn't we, Evo?
I don't know if it was you and I or not.
Okay.
But for those of you who don't know, Marshall Plan, 1948, it was announced by Secretary of State George C. Marshall. And yes, I got my notes ready for this one because I'm trying to make sure I don't fuck it up here. But it was put into law or signed into law by President Harry Truman in 1948. The plan provided billions of dollars to help European nations rebuild their economies and infrastructure after World War II. It had other effects, including creating markets for American goods, supporting democratic governments, and extending bipartisanship into the post-war years, laying an economic foundation for the European Economic Community and the European Union. A big part of the Marshall Plan was an agreement saying that we would not impose tariffs on those European nations, and we would allow them to impose tariffs on us in return to get their goods. It was to help rebuild that European economy because we know that when major economies like that collapse, it isn't just felt by those economies. It's felt by everyone around the world. The same thing was transitioned from the Marshall Plan to Japan with World War II. And that spread from 1948 from just those European countries throughout the world and from Japan throughout Asia. And that is why we have had for a long time a lack of tariffs in China, where we get so many of our goods. We have set ourselves up from the 1950s on to be a nation that is in a lower stakehold economically with trading than most of the other nations in the world. You can't go and put a Ford plant in China without China taking a whole bunch of money from it. But they'll sell their cars here. That's a lot of the rhetoric that's being pushed around with the tariffs. We need to impose these tariffs in order to hopefully promote more American jobs, hopefully promote American companies to buy American made, and not to prevent us from having trade with other countries, but to level or even out that economic scale that has been so widely fucking skewed in one direction for such a long time. There is, and I acknowledge this, there is an extreme possibility, especially early on, that when those goods come into the American ports, that the people that are buying those goods, those American companies, the Walmarts and whatnot that are going to be selling things, are going to be taking that additional cost and add it onto the consumer. And that's where the consumer has to start buying American goods over those which are more expensive traditionally, over those foreign goods, which are less expensive. But now you're getting more quality stuff, US made by US workers, boosting our economy by providing more American jobs than buying from overseas. And if that starts to hurt the margins over there, that's when things start to change and the tariffs can start to go back to not as extreme. But it's not going to happen overnight. I don't think that it's going to happen in 4 years, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
And I want to add into that too. You know, it's not only just about bringing those jobs back. Obviously, that's great, but it's also about keeping that money here. You know what I mean? Like keeping that money in the United States. Like the money that is going into those companies are going to be. We're going to get a greater percentage of that injected back into our economy, into our growth. You know what I mean? I agree that
that's the hope.
That's the hope. And it shouldn't. I'm not an economist, obviously, right? So I'm not saying that it will 100% be that way. And there's a 99% chance that it will not. It's going to get worse before it gets better, for sure. With all this plan, it's going to take growth, and it probably won't pay dividends. Quite possibly, these next 4 years.
Don't say these first 4 years. Trump will leave after 4 years.
I'm just saying though that that the plan is, I think, going to work if it implemented the right way. You know, we can't tariff everything to the max. There is going to probably be a staged level of tariffs, like you were talking about, Evo, to where it is going to be extremely high. We are going to try to kind of slow that desire to purchase overseas, because it's going to cost more money for those products to be, you know, to go there first and then come here. So, and we're going to see prices hike up in the store a little bit, probably from that too. We are going to pick up that price, but I think in the end, we're going to be making more money. There's going to be more money growth into our communities, into our nation, you know?
And look, I kind of said this earlier, that the Democrats say a whole bunch of stuff and then don't really follow through with it. The Republicans, more recently at least, have said a lot of stuff and they follow through with it, for better or for good. No one knows what the fuck Kamala's economic plan was. So at least we had a plan.
That's the problem, right?
Well, I think her plan was to basically regurgitate what Biden did, which obviously was not fucking working. That's why she did distance, but didn't distance. If she did have a plan,
anything, right?
She wouldn't have been able to fucking communicate it anyways.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. We had a conversation, I believe it was yesterday, Mike, about NAFTA.
Yeah, so I was going to bring up NAFTA as fucking NAFTA is awful. So one of the best things that Trump did from his first presidency was getting rid of NAFTA. I don't know if you guys know what NAFTA is, North American Free Trade Agreement. Yeah, so essentially that's why all the fucking jobs left in the first place, was because everybody in North America could freely move around, and they all went down to Mexico for the cheap fucking labor. That's where all of those jobs went. And when he got rid of that, it made those companies come back if they were going to be American fucking companies. If we're going to start tariffing people, and then you're going to go back and you're going to allow NAFTA again. What the fuck's the point of that? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Those are counterproductive points to each other. So I don't know. That makes me a little nervous for the economic plan, because if we're talking about those two things and they're going to coexist, they cancel each other out. What the fuck's the point?
Yeah, and like we talked about, I don't know that he's going to institute NAFTA again. It would be like a NAFTA 2.0, a NAFTA deal
Right.
that is different, where it's still tariffs, but it's tariffed at a different rate. Not every country or continent is going to be receiving the same sort of tariffs. I know that he's talked about that. You know, there's originally a 20% tariff, I believe, on Chinese products, and that it's going to work its way up towards 60%. I think that we're going to be seeing that for most countries that we do major import export with, and it's not going to be like China 60% tariff everything. It's also been a plan, and when you hear the political jargon, they've been speaking in very broad strokes, but when the more economical or economists have been talking about the plans for these parties, they're saying if it's goods that we can only get outside of the country, the tariff is completely different. It's way lower. But if it's stuff that we can get, make, produce in the US, then the tariff ends up going up higher to help promote growth from within the country.
It's going to be product specific. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like China's tariffs on us. You know, there's a reason why you can't buy, a Toyota Tacoma. You're getting a Hilux. You know what I mean? When you buy it overseas.
I wish they'd fucking sell me a Hilux, bro.
Right?
Well, but that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like, they do it to us, and it forces the purchases within their country, you know? And that's kind of like, we should be doing the same thing, you know, like, and that's what I think that part of that plan is going to be. And then it rolls straight into taxes. You know, I know that a big thing was from the Democratic side was like, oh, well, they just cutting taxes for the elite and the corporations and all that stuff. It's like that. What corporation wants to do business in a country where they're paying extreme tax rates? You know, that also, it's not only the tariffs, it is the tax rates. You bring those tax rates down, let these companies flourish here in the United States. Let them be productive. You know, sure, some CEOs may make some more money, but also their workers are going to make some more money, right? Their products are going to do better here because their profit margins are going to be larger. They're going to expand more. Like it all works together, and it's a Tetris match, right? Like it has to be done the right way. It can't just be.
That's the thing, though. If you get one fucking block that misses.
Sure, I'm not disagreeing with you. You got to be able. They have to be able to be able to fix things on the fly and constantly assessing the situation to make changes as they need to make. But I think the team that he's putting together is going to be the best team for that. You know what I mean? In my opinion.
I would hope so. I mean, he did announce today, I believe, who his chief of staff is going to be. I don't remember the woman's name. She was on his staff before. She's actually been applauded by a lot of Democrats as being very centrist and moderate on things, and has been known to be someone that has countered Trump on a lot of things and had those arguments with him, but he's actually taken a lot of her advice or understood when she's argued with him on things. So I think that's a good choice. We can kind of get into the whole cabinet. You know, Elon Musk's been talked about possibly having position. I haven't heard anything about Tulsi, but I would really hope that she could have some appointment within his cabinet. RFK obviously has been talked about. RFK is not getting rid of vaccines. He has said that multiple times now. I'm not preventing you from getting vaccines. I'm not canceling vaccines, even though vaccines have been bad for him in his life in certain instances. He said that I want all these scientific information to be out there for no one to be forced to do anything, and for people and parents to be able to make educated choices when it comes to these things, and for pharmaceutical companies to kind of be held to a correct standard. I know that he's also talked about attacking healthcare and the food industry in particular, which I'm all for. You look at the type of food that we shovel out in our country compared to just across the border to the north in Canada. I know the Fruit Loops conversation gets talked about a lot, but there are so many harmful things that we allow, the GMOs in our food. We're seeing crazy spikes in and with GMO foods that are just like in autism, ADHD, all these different diseases and stuff in our kids because we're force feeding them bullshit, which traditionally has been cheaper and more easily accessible. Addictive for sure. Like these things that are banned in most other countries. Like I hope that pharmaceutical companies aren't allowed to fucking put their bullshit on TV anymore in commercials. I would love to see that go away.
That idea.
Us and New Zealand, I believe, are the only two countries that allow pharmaceutical ads on TV. It's fucking insane. Like I hope that guys like I hope that guys like RFK can help promote that change and hold the fire to the feet of the pharmaceutical companies. And that's the thing, is that is one thing that people probably don't talk about enough, is that this is Trump's last time in office. I don't care what the fuck you say, Matt. It's going to be his last time in office. So it can go one or two ways. It can go where he goes crazy and makes a lot of fucking moves and shakes that are going to make him hated by both sides, but is what's good for the country. Or you can go what Democrats are going to think, and he's going to go full dictator and take over and blah, 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 and turn us into some fucking fascist country. And I think the odds of that are
0.
Yeah. But he could institute a whole lot of things that are going to piss off people. Like the pharmaceutical country companies run this country. Like if he can make a dent in their margins, dude, he's going to get assassinated so quick.
Dude, they killed millions of people, and the whole government knew about it, and then they only paid like less than 1% of the profit margins that they made off of killing millions of people.
Talking about Purdue Pharma?
Yeah.
That's a good show on Netflix, by the way. I don't know if you guys watched it.
Oh yeah,
but,
I watched.
It's a
I
sad
watched the
show.
movie. It
is sad. It's terrible, isn't it? You know.
There's a movie and there's the TV show, Matt.
And I'm gonna say this: Ozempic's giving me those Purdue Pharma vibes. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe
the way they keep sticking people's faces in.
Right, but I do have two things to say though, real quick. I think I forgot the first one though. I definitely think we need to start a petition for Theo Vaughn to be the press secretary.
I saw that one floating around today. I think it'd be funny, but it would actually be terrible.
My other point is that I don't think that I don't want Trump to try to take more than 4 years. I think that he will be trying to set JD Vance up to take it on in 2028. And I think JD Vance, I'm excited about JD Vance. I think he's an awesome candidate for that. I think he's going to do great as vice president. And I think he will also bring a more moderate stance into the executive branch too, for sure. So,
and you know who should be running on that ticket with JD Vance? Tulsi fucking Gabbard. Yep.
Yeah. Agreed.
That'd be a dream team.
Yeah. I'm for all that.
Or RFK.
RFK will be past
if he makes
prime.
it the next 4 years, because honestly, the appointment he's looking at taking is going to be the one that's most detrimental to the money makers in this country and in the decision makers. You know what I mean? He's going to be battling pharma, the FDA, and that's a dangerous position to be in because they run this country.
I don't know if he's going to make it.
Nice.
Super dangerous.
Yes.
I think the political elites might go after RFK and his Ravens.
What's his last name again?
Amazing.
Kennedy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the government's never taken out a Kennedy before.
Nope, never. You know what? We actually might get to find out who did, though.
Maybe.
I think he said he's going to release it. Didn't he? Like the rest of it?
I mean, what Trump has gone into that and the UFO files and stuff like that, and basically been like, if I fucking told the public, it would be a bad thing.
Well, I'm pretty sure when he was
RFK is going to probably find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he was on Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan was trying to get him to speak out and get stuff out. But I think he was saying like, yeah, if I get back into office, I'm going to release the rest of what happened with JFK.
Well, I think,
but it is kind of scary. The fact that he said, I looked into the files and I thought it was best not to release all of it. That's kind of fucking scary.
That is
right?
frightening.
You know what I mean?
I think we're looking at Department of Justice, the CIA, FBI probably having a major overhaul. He probably didn't want to do it initially, and then they all started coming after him in that first term, and now he's like, nah, bitches, I'm coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to dismantle a couple of entities of things.
Here, Mike, you want to wear this?
Yeah. Possibly. Man, I hope we find out. It's going to be really fucking bad, though. Because
I
it's
forgot
for
to
sure
plug
the
my
government.
computer in.
Yeah, I think that's the only logical thing, right?
It's the government. It was for sure an entity in the government. Jesus, Matt.
That's
I
horrible.
forgot to plug my damn computer in. It's about to die.
Oh my
Give me a second.
Yeah. As you drag the cord across the room.
So I do have something to put out there, and I probably should have led with this, but after 41 years of life, this was actually the first presidential election that I voted in.
Really?
Congratulations, first time
Hey,
voter.
you know what? Way to do your part.
Yeah.
I mean, up until this point in my life, I just honestly felt like I wasn't educated enough to make an appropriate decision, and I think now.
Well, let's not go that far, Byron.
Look. Yeah, so I think now, like, more so, I have a vested interest in the country and made it a point to educate myself enough to at least make a decision and do my part.
And I'm all like, I get where you're coming from with that, because look, there's a lot of people I didn't vote for on this ballot because I don't know enough and I don't feel informed enough to want to have any sort of an impact on that. School boards here in Sierra Vista, because I'm not involved with the schools, I don't know what's good or bad. I don't really have much of a dog in the hunt. I'm sure I would have an opinion if I looked into it, but I just don't at this point. So I didn't vote on it. So I get where you're coming from, not feeling like you've got enough information. I think that's one thing that our political system could do better, is making things simplified for the average voter to like actually know what's going on. And it's even tougher these days because of all the bullshit that gets slung around.
Right.
All the fucking, sorry to say it, fake news that gets fucking pushed out there. Like, if I was super, super uninformed and I watched a couple TikToks and I keep on seeing people say Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler, I'm going to be like, oh, fuck, I'm not voting for that guy.
That guy's Hitler.
I don't like Hitler.
I've heard about Hitler. He was bad.
I'm pretty sure. I remember hearing he's a bad guy.
Talking briefly on that education, what do you guys think about his proposal about paying homeschooling families $10,000 per kid to homeschool?
It's the same thing that's getting done with fucking public education. It's being subsidized.
Yeah.
I don't see why it's a fucking difference. And I got to tell you, there's going to be a ton of people that take that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, there's going to be people that take it and don't do what's right with it. And that's the problem.
That's the hard part, right? That is the hard part. But I do think that the idea is good. You know what I mean? Like the government running our children's education, this is obviously coming from someone who has 4 kids in the public education system,
in Alabama.
But I'm grateful for that, to be honest. Our school system's awesome. I think the hard part about that is that, you start talking about wanting to homeschool because you want a better education for your kid. You want them to be taught the right way. There's things you don't want them to be taught. I don't want my kid learning about sex education and different ways in elementary school to satisfy a grown man or woman, because that's happening in some states. But oh, you should have told me. I would have made one and we would have handed it through the screen. But at the same time, we're a big sports family. You know what I mean? And that really only kind of exists for the most part in if I want them to be successful, if I want them to go to college or to have a chance at the NFL or the NBA or whatever it is, and that's not very possible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not very possible in a homeschooling situation. So I don't know if that can be fixed, but that's just the truth of it.
I think don't homeschool kids get to participate in sports at whatever their school district is?
They should be able to.
I think
it's probably different based on state, county, all that sort of shit.
Yeah, I have a friend who lives in Indiana, and their kids participate. Like the homeschool kids have like their like team or whatever they call combined together to create their team, and they participate in the sports in the district.
Right, but for instance, my kids go to they do it in Alabama. It's 1 through 7A size schools. I think Arizona is similar, but 7A is the largest, and our high school is a 7A school, and they get a lot of it. They can get a lot of attention from recruits, things like that, through that school because they're so large and successful. But my kids' practice for their sports starts on their third period of class. You know what I mean? Like Malachi goes in early for football practice. He goes in at 6 a.m. and then it goes into his first period of class, and he doesn't leave or go to his actual class until 10 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? So I don't know how that works as a homeschooler. Do they then go into the school day to practice? I don't know how that would work.
I have no fucking idea.
Nope.
Which, by the way, they practice so much now. I don't remember practicing that much. Like they're practicing 3 and 4 hours a day during the school year. Even Sherilyn, for her basketball, her last period of her regular school day is basketball.
I think we were 2.5 hours a day.
Yeah, I feel like 2 hours is around what we had to have been at most.
I do like it this way with them training in the morning, though, because it gives Malachi and the boy, like after school, they can come home right after school, do homework, stuff like that. But I will say this, though, that first football game when they have to go out at 6 o'clock in the afternoon and play in the heat that they're not used to because they've been practicing at 6 a.m. the whole season, it's usually pretty brutal.
That's what 2-a-days was for.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
they practice a lot. They put in the work for sure.
That's crazy. All right. Well, another one of the big hot button topics was security and peace in the nation and our foothold in the political and economic stage around the world. We've got the southern border. We've got the Ukraine. We've got Russia and Israel, Palestine. How do you guys think that that's all going to play out now with Trump coming back into power?
I think it's already playing out, homie.
Yeah, it's already started.
It's already
started.
This was wild. Newsweek, generally considered one of the more believable fucking news reporting agencies, one that I don't think would posit positive things for Trump if it wasn't legit. They're calling for an immediate end of the war after he gets put into office. Like, shit, dad's home.
Yeah. He is going to let Israel fucking kill every single one of us if we don't knock it off.
He's going to be like, here's some extra money. Go fucking do it.
Sorry, guys.
I was like, what is that sound?
It's my garage door. The boys just got home from wrestling.
Nice.
Lacey just walked in, didn't even look at me. She's like, you clearly didn't finish dinner. Damn it.
Nope.
No.
I'm hoping, fingers crossed, Sherilyn covered down. I texted her. I was like, hey, I need you to finish this recipe in there before Mom gets back with the boys.
Well, in Trump's America, the women will be back in the kitchen.
Oh, my goodness. There we go. Yeah.
Is that
right?
Yeah.
Harrison Butker?
Oh, man. Evo, I think that a lot of shit's going to come to a stop. Trump is pretty anti-war. Now, I do have concerns that maybe somebody's going to get angry after the next, 4 years of getting the taxes fucking ripped out of them by tariffs. which maybe caused issues before. But I think we will be mostly out of all the bullshit. We're not going to fund Ukraine anymore. That's for goddamn sure.
Yeah.
Thank God, dude.
Ukraine's about to get fucking dog. Well, maybe. I don't know, man.
No.
They should have been dog walked already, but we were pumping so much money into them.
Here's the thing, dude. I mean, Putin's whole thing with it was he doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO. You know, and I think that was the driving factor for the most part that pushed this whole thing. So
it's one of the things that gets parroted a lot, that Putin had basically gone to NATO and said, if you sign some sort of declaration saying that you won't put Ukraine in NATO, then I'm not going to do this military action. Now, how true that is, I don't know. How much you can trust Putin, I don't know. I still feel like he would have tried to take some of Ukraine, if not all of Ukraine. It's very possible, and the hope would be that NATO wouldn't step in. My thoughts on this is that I know a lot of people like to say that Putin and Trump are friends, and I don't think so. I think that they both know that they are megalomaniacs and strong in the aggression standpoint of things, and a little bit unhinged. And for that, they both respect each other and know that they can't just fucking be all willy-nilly. It's not like Biden, who's asleep 18 hours out of the day, and you can kind of slip a lot by him on his ice cream breaks. You're going to have a guy that's going to say, hey, you need to, tone it down a little bit here. We're going to pull funding from Ukraine in this war, but you also have to do your part to stop the conflict. And I think it's going to end up being like where Russia holds territory right now, that they're going to end up getting that. And Ukraine's going to basically be forced to the negotiation table to accept that, because they're going to get no money anymore from us and the European nations. It's the biggest loser here is probably Ukraine. They're being cut off from the U.S. government tit, and they're losing ground.
Zelensky's dead within inside of 12 months.
It's very possible. Very possible.
But he'll be rich when he dies.
Also very possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, I feel bad for the Ukrainian people.
Yeah,
I feel bad for Ukraine in this whole situation, but to some extent, it isn't our country, man. Like,
and I don't think it's unfair to say, the Russian people, a huge loss for them. Like, as far as and I'm not a Putin sympathizer at all, but the people that make up Russia too, a lot of them young men were forced into that war as well.
It's not like a religious ideology that is causing this war. It is generally just for straight power. You can say that what's going on with Hamas and Iran and Israel, there's deep religious ties and backings to a lot of that. But this is not a religious thing in that area. That is straight money, power, and political foothold on the national or a global stage. And I think that when that is the case, most countries don't want war, right? But when you have religious ideologies, you have groups that absolutely want the war, being backed by people who want to make money, of course. I mean, money always boils down to
for business.
It is. But that's why I think that stuff is probably going to come to an end. The biggest loser ends up being Ukraine. But there will probably have to be some sort of deals of like, hey, we are going to still give Ukraine money probably to help them rebuild what they have, what's left, but it won't be anywhere near what we're giving them for these war efforts and basically a proxy war right now. And I don't know. I have two thoughts on this whole thing. My job relies on war. So it's like the military industrial complex is kind of my lifeblood and my work to an extent. And when war's not going on, it's not great for me in that aspect. But I don't think I'm going to not have a job or something like that. The army keeps rolling along, I think, is part of the fucking song. But
the army goes rolling.
The other part of me, I've seen my country at war for the majority of my life and be involved in war for the most of my life. Like, I'm kind of done with it. I'm tired of it. Ready to be done. Yeah. So I think that one's going to end. And then, yeah, if Hamas is talking about, calling it quits, shutting things down, like it'll be interesting to see if the religious ideologies are able to cool their tempers or not.
All I can say is actions speak louder than words, and you're already seeing that shit play out. I mean, literally the day after the election. So I think we're going to see some prosperity for sure between with all those conflicts.
I just want to say how proud I am of Byron and Matt for picking up right in there with the Army song and and going with me on it. Appreciate that. Things are going to get better in that front. He is anti-war. Trump is like staunchly anti-war.
Right.
So
I still love the quote of him with like that Taliban leader and showing him like pictures of his house and shit like that.
Oh, dude, that's a baller.
You're gonna knock shit off.
Here's the thing.
Bye-bye.
He's staunchly against war, but he's 100% against defending America. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
he will not fuck around, and that's kind of how you have to be. That's a stance. You can't just say, "Don't," right? That don't work. It's I'm gonna fucking blow you up. My missiles are bigger. My army's stronger. You know what I mean? Like you gotta take that hard stance, and that's where he sits.
You have to be willing to drive a fucking AGM 114 right up the ass of a Taliban
right into your living room.
Yeah, and he will do it.
And here's the location. Here's the pictures. That's the window we're gonna aim for.
In his own words, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Well, he died like a dog.
How does that saying go? Fuck around and find out.
Yep, Fafo. He's definitely a proponent of that.
Yes,
does anyone feel like, and maybe it's just me, in this election cycle, that some of his rhetoric, while still batshit crazy at times, was toned down to an extent? I feel like his first time around, and while he was in office the first time, we were hearing a lot more of the talking shit about Rosie O'Donnell and she's a dog face and blah, 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 and all that shit. And while he has definitely talked trash about Biden and Kamala and stuff like that, and other political opponents, I feel like it has been toned down to an extent. Like, he is still aggressive, but there's still been a somewhat toning down of some of the rhetoric.
I 100% agree with you on that. I think he's learned a lot, obviously, from his first time running for office, which is good. I also think that it's good that he doesn't post on Twitter or X as well. I know he's on Truth Social. Do you guys think he'll come back to X now, though, that he's got Elon Musk?
I mean, he already had his account restored.
I hope so, honestly. I mean,
me too.
I think the president having the president fucking handle on X is a good thing. I receive a lot of news through X. Honestly, it's probably one of the ways I get the majority of my news content, because I can aggregate a bunch of different shit from a bunch of different sources. Like, because the only reason I watched fucking MSNBC was because I needed somebody who knew what the fuck was going on actually with the elections. I can't watch CNN. I can't watch Fox because that shit is so slanted in one direction or the other. MSNBC is not much fucking better, but every once in a while they bring on a Republican who's willing to scream at Democrats.
Hey, what about Jeff Bezos not supporting a candidate, though? That was kind of exciting, right?
I think that might have been because he wanted to back Trump, but Elon was already there, and those two are having a dick measuring contest.
Right. I mean, I think that shows, though, a possible swing in our major news networks to come. I think that we might start seeing some more moderately placed content as opposed to far left or far right. When really, I mean, the only far right is going to be Fox, right? So, but either way, I would like to hopefully see that. I mean, the thing is is those major news networks and media, they're losing to TikTok, to these influencers.
X,
you know,
X was the most #1 used source for fucking news for the election.
exactly.
It feels like it's bringing a little bit of power back to the people, back to the individual, which actually reminded me to pull something up here. And Byron, with you talking earlier about not being as I don't want to say because it sounds pejorative, educated on the candidates or topics or things like that as you want to be in order to vote for them. I think it's important for us to have a stakeholder, even as individuals within our politics in this country. And everyone always says like vote for your representative and stuff like that, so that you can get things that you want done, taken care of. We've seen in the past where they've, the White House has put out like petition websites, right? Where you get to a certain amount of votes, it has to be viewed and spoken about by the president or whoever, right? RFK is a big backer and one of the people who started this website, Policies for the People. Have any of you heard of it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one where we can kind of vote on what policies we want to push for?
Yes, absolutely. So anyone can put it on there.
Idea.
But Policies for the People, started by RFK. You can look anywhere on this left side: health, food, liberty, that sort of stuff. Now we've got some crazy shit on here.
That fucking top one is perfect. Single issue bills for Congress. That would be amazing.
Right.
But like certain things like ban dual citizens in government. I don't know. I could understand why, but deport all illegal aliens. I know that's a big thing on the conservative side. I don't think that's
you'll destroy the economy if you do that.
Exactly. I don't think it's feasible.
Well,
like,
what I think is important,
the border and locking things down. But
what I think is important though is if this gets more mainstream, this website and this process, for sure, put that on there. Ban all illegals. It should show that isn't as popular as what people might think. You know what I mean? That's the idea behind this whole thing.
Yeah.
But this is
ban artificial food dyes. Fucking jack that one through the roof.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, people have replied to it, the millions of thousands of views, activity, all this bullshit when things were put on here. Again, RFK, if he's going to be part of the cabinet, this is something that this administration could absolutely push, get it more government back to say, hey, if there's stuff like that you guys want us in politics to push forward or at least bring forward to elected officials, now you have a better forum for it than just the petitions of old, where it was not easy. Because I remember signing one of those petitions for something back in the day. I think when Obama was president. We are way further in the future here as far as our technological advancement and ability to get on our phone and quickly say yes to this or no to that or something like that. This is like potentially almost like a day-by-day voting system of like, hey, he could go on Trump could go on a social media platform or RFK or whoever and say, hey, we have this platform. These are some of the hot button issue topics. What are your thoughts on it? Legitimately tell us by voting. And we can possibly get things that we are always talking about taken care of. Like, maybe I'm looking at a glass half full situation here, guys, but like this website to me is fucking awesome. Ban stock trading for Congress and president. Abso-fucking-lutely. Right? Like, a whole bunch of this shit. Repeal the Patriot Act. As good as it has done protecting us, it has overstepped its bounds in so many ways. There's so much good shit on this website that I think are at least worth a conversation.
Absolutely.
And I think it would be awesome.
I would love to see something like this adopted into the X platform. You know what I mean? And as far as to get more exposure to it, I think things like this are what is going to be different about this presidency, I think, is the fact that we're going to start getting these out of the box processes or ways for the American people to actually voice their opinions and to push forth what we want for our country. You know what I mean?
I have a question for you guys.
6 inches hard.
Me too. But
more than half.
I'm a liar. Get the ladies happy.
Say You made me lose my fucking train of thought.
Yes, keep thinking about my dick.
What the fuck were you just saying, Matt?
I said 4.5.
Okay.
More things like this on social media.
Okay, no. Sorry, yeah. More things like this. This is great. But who has access to all of this?
Right.
Now, here's what I want. I am not for necessarily everybody getting things handed to them. Everything should be for free. That's nonsense. But if there is something that I think that we should subsidize as a country, one thing that I really loved about trying to cast the vote for Jill Stein, subsidizing people's internet access, giving them access to information.
Mm-hmm.
Starlink is a beautiful thing.
You really want to fucking change the way things happen in this country? Give everybody access to information. They can all go to that site, but not everybody has high-speed broadband internet. It's so natural and normal for us now because we've had it for so long. But we forget that there are places very much that do not have that. When I was fucking home and when I went to Wyoming for a wedding, I was like, fuck, I don't know if we're going to have internet.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's people who are economically disadvantaged who don't have access to it. I completely agree with that shit. It is something that I honestly hadn't thought about until like 6 months or so ago. And it kept on getting brought up with like the hurricanes and people losing internet and Starlink being an option for them. But like, think about kids in underprivileged areas who are not able to access the internet to complete their schoolwork. That is like a commonly accepted norm now that you're going to have access to the internet. It wasn't necessarily like that when we were younger. I remember when I was young going to the computer lab and learning shit about the internet for the first time and going to whitehouse.com and seeing things I shouldn't have seen. Right? Like, and that's probably why I'm fucked in the head now. But like giving that opportunity at least to our kids to help them out with their education. There's going to be good and bad that comes with it, but it's coming regardless. Giggity. And I think that that's a fucking awesome idea because information is power. People's ability to communicate is also powerful. So that would be great. I mean, that's an expensive thing to be able to provide that, but it's absolutely feasible and possible. Making access to internet, even if it's not the highest speed shit, it almost is becoming like a basic right of an American, like having access to water and things like that. That makes sense to me.
Well, I want to say that I know a lot of school districts have things almost like the programs for like free school lunches. Like if you're economically challenged, like they provide, or like the local, internet company provides access to internet for kids, because nowadays most of their work is reliant on them having a connection to internet.
Yeah. But I keep seeing the commercial of the kid that leaves school and he's got to go to the fucking internet cafe and sit in the van outside to get internet, free Wi-Fi or something like that. And that brought the thought to my mind of something that I hadn't thought of before, that, I know I'm privileged, but I didn't even think that I was like, I just assumed that people in general have internet, but a lot of families probably don't. Like kids that don't have a stable household probably don't have access to that as easy.
Right.
So, and that's a way to probably open up more jobs for people. There's a lot of telework opportunities out there. I mean, that could be helping the economy as well, I suppose.
You brought it up. I was like, man, it is great. Not everybody has access to the internet. And I know the Republican side is not necessarily interested in subsidizing people's lives necessarily. I know that. Listen, I don't want subsidized healthcare. That shit is. I don't go to the VA for a reason. I have my own private doctor, unless I really, really badly need the VA for something, because that's what socialized healthcare is. It sucks.
Right.
So that sucks. But if we wanted to actually back something to better the country, that's where we go. That's where I'd dump my money in.
If there's a president to kind of do that on the right side, I think that is Trump. he is not against. He's carried a relatively progressive platform. He was a Democrat up until like a decade ago. He's not against subsidizing certain things like IVF and stuff like that. That's not a right, but that's something that he wants to push for people. Like, that's something that I could absolutely see. And look, he's got the guy to kind of help do it with Starlink and Elon Musk.
Yeah.
The rich get richer in that aspect.
I mean, listen, it sounds dirty though, right? Because Elon's got to make money off the deal. He's going to make a fuckload of money if it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll be part of the government, which he can't do that though if he's part of the government.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting thing that happened, man.
It's going to be a fun 4 years.
Very
entertaining 4 years.
For sure. I'm trying to temper your expectations. Get excited about 2 for sure. Not that I see a blue wave coming anytime fucking soon, because I'm not even sure that's going to necessarily continue to be the predominant color. Dude,
I think Democrats are going to rework their whole.
They have to.
Yeah.
They have to finally put someone in who, at least at face, is a moderate.
Yeah.
And you're going to win over a lot of people by doing that.
Yeah.
How do you think that the transfer of power is going to go?
60% of the country.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
according to Biden, it's going to be smooth and beautiful.
Yeah.
Mike, according to Kamala, it is also going to be smooth and beautiful.
Earlier today,
so we talked.
I
go ahead, play it.
President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory.
Way too late, but good job.
I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition.
That's your fucking job.
And that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Why are we fucking clapping? Of course you're going to do it peacefully.
I'm surprised that the crowd is actually like clapping and cheering for that.
Well, you know why? That's their hill to die on. Is that they're going to do it peacefully.
But here's the thing. Why are we applauding that? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, this is one of the things that doesn't make any fucking sense about Kamala. She doesn't know how to speak, or whoever wrote that speech for her is a fucking moron. Of course, it's going to be peaceful. You just spent the last fucking 4 years bitching about it not being peaceful on January 6th the last time. If you weren't peaceful, you would be the exact same fucking thing as the Republicans. Isn't that the whole point? Like, that's the whole selling thing, is that you're not exactly like Republicans. Why are you applauding exactly what you said you were going to do? You're doing your fucking job. This is the whole army thing coming out of me.
Like,
why are we celebrating people doing exactly what the fucking job is?
Like Matt was saying, that was their hill to die on for a long time, was January 6th and stuff like that.
Stupid.
They're trying to portray a moral high ground that we are better than the others, and we won't do that. The problem is, I think that there is still going to be unrest and stuff like that. There are going to be people who are, you go on TikTok, you see a lot of people fucking crying and freaking the fuck out and whatnot. And that's kind of that further left side. And the right has their further right side that did things on January 6th that they shouldn't have done either.
Yeah.
They're cut from the same cloth. They're just on different sides of the fucking cloth. They're all fucking crazies. In general, there will be a peaceful transfer of power regardless.
Yeah.
There was a generally peaceful transfer of power from Trump to Biden.
There will be riots because that's where we're at in the country now. But of course you're going to hand it over. Of course she's going to help with the transfer. She's the fucking vice president. She doesn't have a goddamn choice unless she's planning a coup d'etat.
Well, I think that's
why are we celebrating?
That's the important part as well. I don't think it's only to say that. I think it's also you can't tell me they're not worried about their people doing the same thing. Now, I'm not saying necessarily storm the Capitol, but we know what the left is capable of in protests and riots. If you look back to the George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, like how, a lot of those protests turned chaos and destroyed cities and took over precincts and literally turned little sections of Washington into their home.
Arguably worse than January 6th.
Are definitely right. Well, you can't tell people on the left that, of course, they're peaceful protests, but I think it's their plea to their own people, like, hey, we have to stay peaceful, or else they're going to use that against us.
Otherwise, we're exactly the same as they are, which they are, which is why I believe that some of this is probably not going to go very well. But I couldn't believe the way the speech came out, because she was super late giving it. Of course, you're going to help make the transition. You're the fucking vice president. I don't care if you do it kicking and screaming. You're going to fucking do it. I don't need you to announce, yes, we're going to do our job. You know what? We ran a great campaign. Donald Trump, congratulations to him. We have a lot of work to do. We want to make this country better. Boom. Done. Speech written, and you don't sound like a fucking moron.
It'll be really
interesting come January.
All of it
for sure. Yeah,
I'm interested to see what gets done over the next 2 to 4 years. How much change, for good or bad, happens, because there will be some bad. I'm sure there always is.
At the very least, it'll be entertaining.
And I'm interested to see how the Democratic Party changes if they move back, which is smart politically, if they want to have another candidate, or if they lean further and harder into the fucking crazy woke mob. We'll see.
Agreed.
By the way, did you guys see the picture from Dave?
I did.
Yep.
I responded. 6-letter F word and all.
Yeah, I saw it. People's Choice. Congrats to the Vanilla Gorilla for the People's Choice.
Chili cook-off competition for him. That's why he couldn't be here. He was feeding the people.
Very nice.
I'm talking about.
Oh man, guys, I don't have anything else on this election. Listen, I'm happy with the way it turned out. If I'm being honest, Kamala would have been terrible. I said on this show, this exact show, I don't even remember how long ago it was now, that I thought the best thing for the country would be for Donald Trump to probably win the election, because he can't ever run again. I know we've joked a little bit, Matt. It's over after the next 4 years, for sure. He's not coming back as the VP.
And then we got JD Vance.
But then we got JD Vance, and then maybe a couple other people in that cabinet he's trying to build that we like.
Maybe Elon Musk one day.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know if Elon's giving up all the money, though, bro.
Hey, I think if Elon's proven anything, he doesn't care about money anymore as much. He doesn't have to, right? What has he got, 300 billion or something?
Yeah, the most.
He's got a couple shekels.
Yeah.
He's got a couple shekels.
He did just purchase a $35 million mansion in Texas, so.
I hear Texas is nice.
Barely a dent.
Yeah.
Barely a dent. Yeah, that's the last thing for me is I am definitely tired of all the bullshit of the elites on TV, if you will, the celebrity talking about how they're sad for the Democratic side and sad for the country and all this stuff. Like, you're not talking to that many people. Like, yeah, it's a lot, but you're not talking to the majority. Like, you have to be reflective at some point and be like, a lot of people disagree with me. A majority of people disagree with me in my statements. And I think most people know that a majority of all of this red is way closer to the center than it is all the way to the right. And so you need to stop with that rhetoric and come to a understanding in the middle so we can heal as a country, move forward, get better. And the whole rhetoric that keeps getting thrown around of the country's over, dictatorship, women's rights are gone. It's all bullshit. It needs to be fucking chill out for sure.
Holy fuck. Byron, this is a great text, bro.
Yeah.
Steve Madden is halting manufacturing in China by half in a year. Hamas calls for an end to the war in the Middle East. The Iran-backed Houthis announced a ceasefire, and Putin says he's ready to work toward peace. Well, that was fucking quick.
Yeah, didn't take much, did it?
Now, we just needed somebody in office who carried a big stick, I guess.
And that's shit that can't be like ignored. Like you can't really spin that.
Even as somebody who's not a Trump fan, proof's in the pudding already. Like,
exactly.
And all the
I'm excited. I'm happy.
McDonald's will be fixed.
No, dude. Maybe Kamala will be working on one again.
Or was the Burger King?
I thought that was proven that she didn't actually do that.
I don't know. I know that Trump didn't do it either because that bitch was closed off, and those were handpicked people from photo ops.
For sure.
So Trump never worked at McDonald's either. But
all right, 2 hours. We got to wrap this up, fellas.
yeah,
Yes,
this is
sir.
it. Guys, thank you. Hey, listen, conversations like this are fun. Even if we disagree, this is a group of guys that obviously we all know each other pretty well at this point. Even if we didn't, our background in the military kind of gives us that ability to have conversations with people that we don't necessarily know, we don't necessarily agree with, but we all know how to work towards that common goal. And this being a political commentary show kind of was a great way to do that. We have differences of opinions on several things. Some things we agree on, but we're able to, maintain a fun conversation, good conversation, and it never got heated. So bye, Byron. Appreciate you, Byron.
Now we got that asshole out of here.
Yeah. But man, it's great. This is a fun show. Hopefully we get some more shows like this. But I think our next one, we're going to definitely have to just fuck off the entire time because we've been a little serious recently. So,
yeah, just a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And look, there's one thing I think that we can all agree on. We love our country. We want to see it do good. And we fucking
100%.
hate pedophiles.
correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Release the Epstein list.
Fuck pedophiles. And that's the talk, gentlemen.
And that's the talk.
We'll see you next time.
Get out of there.